Module 4 discusses ethical guidelines for conducting psychological research, the definition of critical thinking, and 4 criteria for critical thinking. Before we get started on the 4 criteria for critical thinking, we need to review what critical thinking is. It is defined as making reasoned judgments. These judgments need to be reasoned and well thought out. Also, to be a critical thinker, you need to be able to ask and seek answers for critical questions. Some questions could be, do you have any good evidence for your claims, or are you just giving your opinion? What is the evidence? How do you know that? Critical is usually viewed as being negative, but in this case that isn't true. It is more related to criteria, which is meeting high standards. The 4 criteria for critical thinking are: there are very few truths that do not need to be subjected to testing. All evidence is not equal in quality. Just because someone is considered to be an authority or to have a lot of expertise does not make everything that person claims automatically true, and critical thinking requires an open mind. The first criteria for critical thinking is there are very few truths that do not need to be subjected to testing. Religious beliefs and personal values are subjected on faith, but everything else in life needs to be continuously tested and have supportive evidence. If there are any questions that can be investigated, they should be using the scientific method. If something is said to be true, you shouldn't automatically assume it is. In life, you should continue to look for facts. An example is about 10 years ago, doctors told women not to color their hair while pregnant because the chemicals can be harmful to the baby. Today, researchers suggest that the chemical in hair dye is not harmful to the baby and women can color their hair while pregnant. The second criteria for critical thinking is all evidence is not equal in quality. One important aspect that is frequently overlooked is evaluating how evidence is gathered before deciding that it provides good support for some idea. If the experiment is not done correctly, the results are pretty much meaningless. One example is there is no evidence that convinces me of an alien visitations or a future zombie apocalypse. The third criteria for critical thinking is just because someone is considered to be an authority or to have a lot of expertise does not make everything that person claims automatically true. Before taking the expert's word, you should always ask to see the evidence. Questions to ask are, how good is the evidence? Are there other alternative explanations? And is the alternative explanation simpler? One example is, when I was younger, I would always take what my parents or teachers said to be true. Even if they were wrong, I would still believe them because they were older than me, and I thought they had all the answers. When I got older, I realized that what my parents or teachers say is not always the truth, and I need to ask somebody that has more experience in that field to help me find the answer. The fourth criteria for critical thinking is critical thinking requires an open mind. People should not close their minds to things that are truly possible. Sometimes it is good to be a little skeptical, but not always. It's good to have an open mind, but you do not want to be gullible to where you'll believe anything. Gullible pretty much means you'll fall for anything, you'll do anything anybody tells you. You don't want to do that. You want to have open mind, but you also want to be just a little bit skeptical. Having an open mind requires a balance between skepticism and a willingness to consider possibilities. If you think you already know the answer, you'll never be able to learn something new. You need to continue to try new things. Even if you think you won't like it, you might surprise yourself and it turns out that you actually do like it. That happened to me quite a lot. An example was whenever I was younger, I was really scared to swim. I was scared that once I went underwater, I was going to drown and nobody was going to be able to save me. But once I gave it a chance and had a few swimming lessons, I opened up and really started to enjoy swimming. Another example that came from the book is scientists have not found any convincing evidence that there was life on Mars. But that doesn't mean scientists have given up on the idea altogether. It is just there is not convincing evidence yet. If I was shown evidence, I would have to change my thinking to believe there are Martians on Mars because the scientists would give me evidence to prove me wrong. We'll go over it one more time. The 4 criteria for critical thinking are: there are very few truths that do not need to be subjected to testing. All evidence is not equal in quality. Just because someone is considered to be an authority or to have a lot of expertise does not make everything that person claims automatically true. And critical thinking requires an open mind.